All right, we're going to talk about something that sounds, well, a little brutal. How to torture a solar panel. But don't worry, it is all for a very, very good reason. It's to make absolutely sure they work for decades. And yes, believe it or not, there's an official rulebook for it.
I mean, really think about that for a second. These solar panels, they come with warranties that last 25, sometimes even 30 years. How on earth can a company be so sure that a panel will actually survive that long out in the real world? It's not like they can just pop it on a roof and check back in a quarter century. Nope, they have to fake it. They have to simulate all of that wear and tear right there in a lab.
Because over its lifetime, a panel has to put up with the most extreme conditions you can imagine. We're talking about just relentless baking, scorching desert heat.
And then you get the total opposite, the brutal cold of deep winter freezes and blizzards. Just that constant expanding and contracting, day in and day out, puts a huge strain on every single part of the panel.
It also has to deal with sudden impacts, right? Like getting absolutely pelted by hailstones the size of golf balls during some crazy thunderstorm.
And on top of all that, it needs to be able to handle the immense, crushing weight of heavy snow just piling up on it for months at a time. So the big question is, how do you even begin to create a standardized test for all of that chaos?
Well, you create a rulebook, a single internationally agreed upon set of trials, a gauntlet, really, that every single solar panel design has to pass. Its official, kind of technical name is IEC 61215. Now, it might not look like some medieval torture manual, but for a solar panel, it is the ultimate test of survival. This document right here is the global benchmark, the gold standard for panel durability. So who are the people who get to write these all-important rules? That would be the IEC, which stands for the International Electrotechnical Commission. You can kind of think of them as the global referees for literally everything electrical and electronic. They bring experts in from all over the world to hammer out a single, unified standard that everyone can use and trust.
And this whole process, the one laid out in the rulebook, is officially called design qualification. The easiest way to think about it is like a final exam for a brand new solar panel model. Before that design can be mass-produced and sold to people like you and me, it has to prove without a doubt that it's tough enough to handle anything the real world can throw at it.
And the document itself states its goal really clearly. The whole point of these tests is, and I'm quoting here, to show, as far as possible within reasonable constraints of cost and time, that the module is capable of withstanding prolonged exposure. It's basically a very practical way of predicting the future.
So what does this solar panel bootcamp actually look like? Come on, let's take a little peek inside this qualification gauntlet and see some of the wild challenges a panel has to survive. Okay, first up is the thermal cycling test. In this chamber, they take a panel and subject it to hundreds of cycles of insane temperature swings. We're talking going from a scorching 85 degrees Celsius all the way down to a bone-chilling minus 40 Celsius, over and over and over again. This is basically decades of day-to-night temperature changes crammed into a few weeks.
Next up, you've got the static mechanical load test. This one simulates the heavy, uniform pressure of a giant snowdrift or even the powerful, invisible force of wind. They lay the panel flat and just apply a huge amount of pressure to its front and back to make sure it doesn't bend, buckle, or break.
And then there's the hail test, which is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. They have a machine that literally fires solid ice balls at specific spots on the panel at crazy high speeds. It's a simulated hailstorm, and that glass had better not shatter.
So here's the really crucial part. A panel might survive all of these tests without any obvious damage, right? The glass isn't cracked, the frame isn't bent, it looks fine. But what about the damage you can't see? I'm talking about microscopic cracks deep inside the silicon cells, tiny flaws that could slowly kill the panel's performance over time. How do you find those?
To find those hidden flaws, those silent killers, engineers need something like an X-ray for solar panels. And guess what? They have one. It's a technology called electroluminescence imaging, or EL for short.
And yep, you guessed it, there is a whole other IEC standard just for this procedure. IEC 63202-2 is the official guide that spells out exactly how to perform these EL tests to make sure you get clear, reliable, and consistent results every single time.
So how does this X-ray thing actually work? It's really clever. It's basically the exact reverse of how a solar panel normally operates. See, out in the field, sunlight goes in and electricity comes out. For an EL test,
You take the panel into a completely dark room, you run electricity in, and the solar cells themselves actually emit a faint, invisible light. But here's the magic trick. Any area with a crack or a defect, it can't light up. It stays dark, instantly revealing all of that hidden damage.
Okay, so why? Why go to all this trouble? Why create these super elaborate torture tests and these high-tech X-ray procedures? Well, it's because it all comes down to building trust. Trust in the technology that's going to be powering our future.
And you know, this whole process never stops. The standards are constantly evolving, constantly getting better. For example, the 2021 update to the rulebook added brand new tests to deal with new challenges. Things like dynamic loads that simulate wind vibrations, and even a specific bending test for the new generation of flexible panels.
Look, at the end of the day, the payoff for all this rigorous testing is just massive. It makes sure the panels on our homes are safe. It protects the huge financial investments made by homeowners and power companies. It helps guarantee that our power grid has a reliable source of clean energy. And maybe most importantly, it gives all of us confidence that solar power is a durable, long-term solution we can count on.
So, as we keep pushing the boundaries, developing newer, better, and maybe even more exotic types of solar technology, it leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. What new tortures, what new and improved gauntlets will we have to invent to make sure they're ready for the next 25 years?